So many people go, what? You can't negotiate with the narcissist. Why even bother? Absolutely can. You just have to know how to do it. This other person isn't trying to get to a resolution. This other person is enjoying the process of manipulating you and watching you squirm. 99% of winning is you believing that you can win. And if you don't believe you can win, nobody can help you. I mean, you know, Dr. Rewire, right?
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Dr. Rewire. Welcome to the Dr. Rewire show today. Today's guest is someone uniquely special. She has gone all over the world, spoken across the world, but she started her life by being married at 19 years old, had 3 kids by the time she was 24, went back to school and became one of the top prominent attorneys in the world. She was the top 1% of attorneys in the world. She's written 2 books. She's got 1 book. She's got a new book coming out. She's been on Extra. She's been on Fox News, ABC, Good Morning New York, Good Day New York. Please help me welcome my friend Rebecca Zung. Rebecca, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I appreciate this so much. So let's dive right into this. What does it mean to negotiate with a narcissist?
Yeah. So many people go, what? You can't negotiate with the narcissist. Why even bother? You know, it's just ridiculous. You can't even bother to try. And what I say to that is actually that you absolutely can. You just have to know how to do it. You have to have the right framework. You have to have the right understanding of the psyche of a narcissist. And with all of that knowledge that you absolutely can, and you absolutely can get what you want every single time and without backlash. It is possible.
What is the psyche of a narcissist from your research?
The psyche of a narcissist is this. You have to understand that you're dealing with a person who feels, and I always say feels like, because you have to distinguish from that they are this, but feels like they don't have any internal sense of value. So that means that they feel like they have to get all of their value from external sources. So they're constantly looking, gathering, almost like a vulture from external sources, trying to get their feeling of value from things like either prestigious friends or impressive, you know, whether it's layering on things like adulation, admiration, you know, the money, the power, that sort of thing that people normally think of, control. But it's also something else. And this is the other thing that I think of. I call that first layer kind of what I call diamond level supply.
Sure.
But then there's what I call like the dark underbelly of narcissistic supply, which is what I call kind of coal level supply. And it's the side that they don't necessarily show people as much. They only really kind of show the people around them that they're controlling. And that's the degrading people, debasing people, denigrating people, you know, the not so nice side of a narcissist, right? But they do get a high from that as well. They do kind of enjoy the manipulating, the controlling, that, you know, because it gives them a sense of power and control, and that also feeds that inner emptiness that they have, right? And because they don't feel like they have any sense of value internally. And so when you're feeling empty inside like that, and you're trying to constantly feed that emptiness, it's a never ending quest. And it's almost like a black hole inside of them that can never be filled. It's like a sieve. It can never be filled.
How does someone get there? Like, how does someone get to that point where you're saying, you know, like, where does someone become a narcissist in your expert opinion? And then how do they stay there? Like, why do they stay there for that matter as well?
So I just finished writing my new book, which is Slay the Bully: How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And I did all of the research on this. And it starts in childhood. It's a result of trauma. And what happens is that a person is continuously subjected to trauma as a child. And what happens when all of us are in trauma and subjected to trauma, or as even as adults, we go
Sure.
into this fight or flight mode,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
And what happens to our brain when we're in fight or flight is that the brain dumps a bunch of chemicals into our bodies and into the brain so that we can start to fight or flight. And what it is epinephrine or cortisol and a whole bunch of other things so that we can become stronger, faster, better. This is, an outgrowth of when we were even cavemen or whatever it was that we were, right?
Yeah.
But when that happens to the brain continuously, it actually causes damage to the brain. It actually causes damage to the limbic system of the brain.
Sure.
And so as children, when that child was constantly and continuously subjected to that, it actually caused arrested development in the limbic system part of the brain. And so as they grew and developed into adults, that limbic system part of the brain never really continued to develop. And so as adults, what happens is when they are presented with stimuli that causes them to again feel somewhat maybe threatened,
Okay.
then that part of the brain then is activated. And what we call it is narcissistic injury.
Mhm.
And then that narcissistic rage becomes activated and comes out. And so it can come out in a number of different ways. If they feel slighted in some way, or they feel, that they're not being treated in a way that they feel like they should, or whatever, then they react in a certain way. And yeah. And so you can't negotiate with them in a way that you would with a regular reasonable person. You just can't.
Yeah. And so when someone becomes into this narcissistic phase, and I like the way that you explain that actually, because it is a narcissistic injury, it's a repetitive injury, and it makes complete sense inside that. Why is it that like when they just don't listen to people? Like you're saying, they're not open to negotiation. Is there a sense of pride, or is there a sense of, because in my experience and kind of what I've said for a long time is that we're both narcissistic and altruistic in ourselves. Like we have both sides of ourselves, but why do we express one or the other more than the other on a continual basis in your experience?
Well, I think it goes back to and you're a brain expert, right?
Mhm.
So, what I'm saying to you, I think you understand,
Sure,
right?
absolutely, yeah,
And it makes perfect sense, correct? I mean,
absolutely, it does.
and so, when you get to that point, and yeah, we've all experienced a certain amount of this, but most of us are able to still reason, even though the limbic system part of our brain may be taking over to a certain extent. Yes, all of us have an emotional part of our brain
Yeah,
that we might have to control at times, right? And most of us are going, hey, wait a minute, that emotional part is taking over right now. I think I need to. And sometimes it may be, I'm hungry right now, or I'm tired right now, or I feel sick right now, or there are times when it's taking over, and we need to step back,
mhm,
right? So there are times that all of us it is a spectrum, right?
sure,
But I'm talking about when you're in narcissistic personality disorder. This
got
is
it,
an actual disorder.
got
This
it.
is an actual pathological it's an actual disorder that, is recognized by the DSM-5, that, is recognized by experts, that
So if you're trying to, so if you're going to negotiate with someone who's in that narcissistic state, like what's the first thing you want to think about when you're talking to them? Like, what's your framework? What's a framework that someone can think about and say, okay, how do I go after this?
well, the first thing that you want to recognize is that if you are dealing with somebody like that, you're not going to push directly at them, because
Mm.
if you want to do that, if you decide to do that, then you will fail every single time. And if you are trying to work within a framework where you're trying to say, let's come to a reasonable resolution, like as if you're working with somebody who is reasonable on the other side, a non-narcissistic person. I shouldn't say just reasonable, but a non-narcissistic person, you absolutely will fail every single time, because you're not recognizing what's happening on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
This other person isn't trying to get to a resolution. This other person is enjoying the process of manipulating you and watching you squirm. A non-narcissistic person wants to get to a resolution. That's a fundamental difference.
I like that a lot.
Difference.
I like that a lot. Actually, I never thought about it that way, but that's actually very accurate, right? And if you stop and think about it, a narcissistic person is just actually enjoying the game and watching you squirm. But or we'll call it a reasonable person wants to get to a resolution and move on. Actually, that's a great way of saying it. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, so if you recognize that you're actually trying to get to two different ends there, you're never going to get to a resolution.
Right.
I mean, it's an absolute fundamental difference. And so the non-narcissistic person is constantly baffled, because the non-narcissistic person is like, what is it that they want? I'll just give it to them. Let me be done. I'm sure it's just money. I'm sure they just want to win, but it's none of those things. It's none of those things. I mean, I remember even, long ago, before I recognized this type of condition, when I was a lawyer, when I was practicing, I would have narcissistic clients say to me things like, I'd rather pay you than her. And now looking back, I fully recognize that was what was going on, because I remember thinking, why would you say such a thing? But now I understand what was going on.
Were you a divorce attorney, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
You were. Okay. So everything you're kind of saying, I'm like going through my divorce actually as I'm going through it. So it's hilarious. But yeah, I can totally see every aspect of a divorce kind of coming into. That's why you deal with such high profile divorces and are a consultant on them in many cases, right? It makes complete sense.
Yeah, I did high net worth divorce. That's the kind of law that I practiced. So I represented billionaires and celebrities and, people like that who had plenty of money to just sit around and just make the other person miserable for many years.
Sure. So when someone's going through this narcissistic personality and you're trying to negotiate them, I mean, I love the idea, as I said, that they want to get to a resolution versus just watching them squirm. I guess, how do you think about it when you're in the negotiation process, right? Like, what's the steps? Let's go through that, maybe in a tactical way, that maybe someone's trying to get a job, maybe they're trying to negotiate with their boss, maybe they're looking for a deal, maybe they're trying to figure it out, and they're sitting and squirming. How do they go about that?
Yeah. So that's where my SLAY methodology comes into play.
Okay.
So SLAY actually stands for strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. So strategy is the framework. That's where you have to start. You have to have a vision. You have to have a GPS. You have to have a means to an end. You have to figure out where it is that you're going. So that's the first step. So many times when you're dealing with a narcissist, you're just like a turtle on your back and you're just constantly in the defensive and you're just not thinking about where it is that you actually want to go. And so that's the very first step. Where do you want to go? Create an action plan, create the steps. That's number one. Number two is your leverage. Okay. So, yes, you have to create leverage. And when you're thinking about leverage, you have to think about that diamond level supply versus that coal level supply. Okay. So, the narcissist will always protect and defend that diamond level supply first. How is it that they look? They will always, always, always protect that. So you have to figure out what form of supply is going to be more important for them to keep than the supply source that they get from jerking you around.
Hmm.
And then create some kind of a plan that's going to threaten that source of supply. And then, figure out how you're going to present that. But you can't actually take away that supply source, because if you do, then your leverage is gone. It's a very, 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 much of a dance. It's a balancing, game. And then, how are you going to present that leverage? When are you going to present that leverage? That's also very much a tactical, decision that you're going to make. Okay. And
I was watching one of your videos actually just online a little while ago, and you said never give away your leverage too soon in the process.
Never give away your leverage too soon. Never give away your leverage too soon. And there's a number of different ways that you can build leverage. Some people just want that one smoking gun, but there's a number of different ways that you can build leverage. I mean, you can build leverage out of your text messages. You can build leverage out of your conversations, your witnesses. There's so many different ways that you can build leverage. And sometimes it's 40 different things, that you're presenting. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can build leverage. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the L. The A is anticipate. Anticipate what the narcissist is going to do, be 2 steps ahead of them. You can anticipate by knowing the type of narcissist that you're dealing with. Covert narcissists act differently than grandiose narcissists, and they act differently than malignant narcissists. The covert narcissist, for example, they present themselves in the form of care. So the way they present is, I'm just I just care so much. And I'm just so worried about Johnny, drinking so much. I just don't want, the children to be in danger, because of the drinking, and so that they present themselves that way, but it's very passive aggressive, so that's how coverts present themselves. Whereas a grandiose narcissist might be more like file false pleadings, go after them, like a little bit more like that. But you got to anticipate, how are they going to be? But you got to know what kind of narcissist you're dealing with. So
is there like a scale or something like that you use? And that, you don't have to share that if you don't want to, but is there like a scale or like some way that you say, okay, here are the actions, and so I'm going to plug them into these categories inside that?
Yeah. So in my program, I actually have ways that you can figure out what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, so that you can anticipate how they're going to act in negotiations.
I love that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And then be 2 steps ahead of them. That they're going to try to trigger you. That they're going to try to bait you. So in my program, I actually give lots and lots of ways to deal with them. I making a plan stands, here's ways to go make a plan, have an agenda when you go talk to them. Or I say fluff or favor, vomit later, fluff up their ego and then vomit later. So I give like tons of ideas like that, and so that's the A. And then the Y is you, focusing on you and your mindset. So Y is actually twofold. One is tactical. You have to be on the offensive instead of the defensive. People are constantly looking at the narcissist. They're doing this, they're doing that. This is what they're doing. Instead of creating their own plan. I always say Super Bowls aren't won on defense. They win on offense, right? You got to create your own plan. And then your mindset, so important. I mean, 99% of winning is you believing that you can win,
Sure.
you knowing that you can win. You know, you can have the best lawyer in the whole world, and if you don't believe you can win, nobody can help you. I mean, you know, Dr. Rewire, right? It has so much to do with you knowing that you're a winner, you knowing that you have the power.
I
And
love that. I love all of that. Like slay. Let's go through them again, right? So you said, I want to write these down. You said S stands for strategy, right? So everyone
yes.
gets the strategy.
Mhm.
L stands for leverage.
Yeah.
A is for your
Anticipate and be
anticipation.
be 2 steps ahead.
And U is for your focus on yourself. I love that.
Yeah.
There you have the 4 steps.
Yeah. Yep. So the new book is Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And you can go to slaythebully.com to pre-order it now. So
Definitely, guys, make sure you go do that. She is an expert in this world. How did you become an expert in this world? Obviously, you were a divorce attorney. I get that, but how did you kind of piece this all together over the years? And what was your inkling to actually want to do this as well?
yeah, I actually had been a negotiation expert. I had actually lectured all over the country on negotiation for years, but it wasn't until about 3-4 years ago that I had dealt with a narcissist in the form of a business partner, and literally flattened me. I was so dealing with trauma. It brought up all kinds of issues for me, again, that I thought I had long dealt with, you know, as far as like when I was bullied as a kid and all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I didn't even know what this person was. I thought a narcissist was male, basically like a misogynist, you know, in my mind, like a grandiose type of a narcissist. I didn't know a narcissist could be female, covert, all of that. And
Interesting. Interesting. I think a lot of women will say that. They'll say, like, you know, my husband or ex-husband or ex-boyfriend, like they'll pigeonhole them. Well, he's a narcissist. I hear that all the time. And I love the fact that you're saying, you know what, women are also narcissists. And because as a guy, it kind of gets a little old that everyone just kind of labels people like that, right? But it's great to hear that, okay, look, women are also that way, but in a different form that they're expressing it. So that's
yeah. And men can be covert narcissists too, but I didn't even know that any of these terms existed. I mean, the word narcissist really wasn't thrown around all that much until a few years ago. I mean, I never heard it all that much as an attorney, and I certainly didn't know what a narcissist really was as an attorney at all. And so I just somebody mentioned to me that this person was a narcissist, and I was like, somebody actually said she was a covert narcissist. And I thought, what is that? I don't even know. Yeah. And so I started diving into it, and my head was like basically popped off my body when I started reading about it, and just dove into it all over. I mean, read lots and lots of books on it, and then started to realize I could actually apply what I was learning about narcissism to what I already knew about negotiation. And then started seeing massive movement in my cases at the time. And then, like literally, it was like I had discovered penicillin. And I was like, oh my God. Right. And then what happened was that COVID hit, and I wasn't able to do anything as far as law. So I started doing YouTube videos. I created a whole course on how to negotiate with narcissists, the slay your negotiation with a narcissist. And YouTube totally blew up for me. And now it's like not even 3 years later, and I have like 32 million views on YouTube, and I've sold like 10,000 programs. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's what happened for me. And I don't even practice law anymore. I'm still a partner at a firm, but I don't practice anymore. My whole life has changed. It's changed completely.
I guess, let me ask you this, just more of a personal question than it is even like a expertise question. Like, how do you enjoy this side of the world in helping people understand it versus being the one actually doing the work, negotiating? What's it feel like to you?
Oh, it's so gratifying, actually. I mean,
Yeah,
from a spiritual perspective, I believe that now that it's something that didn't happen to me, that it happened for me. And,
sure.
I do believe that this is what I'm called to do, that I, I believe this is what I'm meant to be doing.
I love that. I love that so much. You've gone through your journey. You've obviously, you know, you went through a divorce. You went through the journey of being divorced at a young age, learned from the lessons, then became an expert yourself, then went ahead and became one of the top professional attorneys inside the top 1% inside of your expertise, working with people with lots of money. So it wasn't about the money. It was about now serving more people. And now you've taken that to the world in such a different way. And it's such an inspiration to be able to sit and see how you've taken your life and continued it on the way, not in the way, for you, not, to you, not as you say. So I love that. I love every aspect of it. Again, what's the website where people can go to get your book, to get more information? I know you've got an amazing YouTube channel. Check out her videos, are amazing. But where can people go pre-order the book?
Slaythebully.com.
Slaythebully.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Look, everything she's saying, like, I'm down, I'm taking notes. This stuff is good. This stuff is gold. And as you guys know, like, everyone wants the edge. That's the whole thing, right? Everyone wants the edge. And if you can get the edge, whether in business, whether not in relationships, you want the edge in relationships, but you want the edge to be able to not be taken advantage of inside that. I think that's another point that we got to talk about too. But if you're looking for the growth, you're looking for the edge to take your life to the next level, go check out Rebecca, go check out her YouTube page, go get a copy of her book, follow her, take her courses, learn what you need to learn, because she's a master at what she does. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for being a part of this show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to hang out with you, as always.
Absolutely, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Guys, there you have it. Dr. Rewire, another show, another podcast. I will see you on the next one. Have a great day. Hey guys, if you like that video, click on the link over here and you're going to love the next video.